Welcome to the Urban Herald. We're your team digging into the complex phenomena shaping our world, and today we're tackling something really crucial, the politicization of frustration,
Hmm.
our mission, to understand how social media algorithms are, well, subtly turning personal feelings of inadequacy, failure, into outright political fury. We're drawing on the Urban Herald's own research and some really recent studies.
That's right. And this isn't just the standard, oh, social media's toxic conversation. It goes deeper. We're looking at how our private insecurities, those times we feel like we're just not cutting it, get amplified and, frankly, weaponized into public anger. It's quite chillingly orchestrated by algorithms. The source material even makes this really stark historical note. Thinking about, say, Hitler's Art Academy rejection. If those professors could have seen this dynamic, well, it's like an early, terrifying template for political manipulation born from personal frustration.
That's a really powerful, maybe even unsettling comparison. So, okay, our mission today is to unpack how our deepest insecurities become political weapons. You said chillingly orchestrated. What does that actually look like? How do the algorithms do this?
Well, it starts with what we at the Urban Herald call the politicization of frustration. That's the core mechanism. That sinister transformation where private feelings get twisted into public, often aggressive political rage.
Okay, let's get into that. We hear politics of resentment thrown around, but our research shows it's found like the perfect breeding ground in these algorithms. And Dr. Daniel Moschan's work at Tulane University seems key here. They studied, over 500,000 Americans and found this confrontation effect. What was so surprising about that?
Well, the really counterintuitive part is that users are actually more likely to engage with stuff that challenges their beliefs, not just confirms them. We tend to think we all live in these cozy echo chambers, right?
Yeah.
But the data, it tells a different story.
That really flips the script on the whole echo chamber idea, doesn't it? So if we're not just hiding away, what's making us seek out confrontations? Like we want the digital fight. Maybe the screen makes us, I don't know, bolder, or maybe just meaner than we'd be face to face.
Exactly. And that fuels what researchers call outrage engagement loops. Think about it. You see something that makes you mad, right? That emotional spike. It translates directly into platform engagement comments, shares, just watching longer. And every angry click tells the algorithm, yes, more of this, please. It pushes the inflammatory stuff right to the top. For instance, Facebook's own internal study showed that moral or political posts framed negatively got around 40% more engagement.
40%. And it's not just Facebook, is it? Our analysis saw similar things on Twitter tweets with that moral outrage language just spread way faster, wider than factual political stuff. And TikTok's For You feed seems particularly good at, poking the bear and sparking these confrontations.
Absolutely. And it gets way, way worse during election times.
Yeah.
When our political identities feel really front and center. Research from the 2020 and 2022 U.S. elections. It showed confrontational content sparked a massive 60% more engagement across party lines compared to non-election times. That's a huge increase in conflict, right when we probably need more thoughtful discussion.
So connecting the dots, it becomes pretty clear why algorithms reward outrage. It's almost depressingly simple, isn't it? They don't care if we're happy or angry. They just care that we're clicking, scrolling, engaged. Anger works really well for that.
Precisely. And what you get is this digital landscape where rage farming isn't some unfortunate side effect. It's basically the main business model. It's cultivating outrage because outrage equals profit, anger keeps you hooked, generates ad revenue.
It's quite a grim picture, this idea of attention harvesting. And the data you mentioned about negative words boosting sharing by 8% per word, that's staggering. It really drives home that this is, like you said, architecture. It's built this way on purpose.
Absolutely. And large-scale studies across Facebook, Twitter, YouTube all confirm it.
Yeah.
Negative emotions drive engagement more reliably than positive ones.
Yeah.
Especially, and this is key, when it targets identifiable outgroups, the them versus us. Julia Ebner, the researcher who went undercover in extremist groups, she talked about the adrenaline rush of digital conflict. That's the dopamine hit the platforms are tapping into. We've probably all felt that little jolt, haven't we? Even when something makes us furious.
Oh, definitely. It's like that awful feeling of doomscrolling through a disaster. You can't look away. We looked at a 2024 Twitter study. Users felt way worse about their political opponents after seeing algorithm-boosted content, but they kept consuming it anyway. We know it's bad for us, but the algorithms are just too good at keeping us hooked.
And each platform has its own flavor, right? Facebook's old EdgeRank, it rewarded comments and reactions, which often meant rewarding arguments. Instagram's Explore page can easily funnel you from mild interest to more extreme stuff. And YouTube's recommendations, They've been really criticized for creating these rabbit holes. You start with something moderate, and within like 2 or 3 sessions, you're seeing much more radical content. Plus, our research consistently finds false, negative claims about opponents spread about 6 times faster than facts. Why? Because they trigger that outrage the algorithms love. It's all about the engagement signal.
So if algorithms are constantly pushing conflict, that brings us to another layer. The individual's sense of self. It's almost like social media acts like these, I don't know, digital art schools with impossible standards. You only see the finished masterpieces, the perfect highlight reels, not the messy sketches of real life. This curated digital identity thing.
Yeah.
It makes people feel like they're failing constantly, comparing their reality to everyone else's online perfection. It's different from, say, Hitler getting a physical rejection letter, and now it's just notification silence.
Right.
We're seeing everyone else succeed.
And the psychological toll is huge.
Yeah.
Our team's research connects social media use directly to increased mental health issues in young adults. About 25% more anxiety, 22% higher depression, 18% more social isolation. But here's the really insidious part. The platforms don't just cause the frustration. They offer instant solutions, usually in the form of political scapegoats. This happens through what's called emotional contagion. Anger, specifically, just spreads like wildfire across these networks, especially when aimed at those outgroups.
It sounds like a systematic pipeline. And studies from the National Institute of Justice have actually mapped this out, right? It's quite disturbing. They see 3 phases. First, vulnerability detection. Algorithms spot users showing frustration, maybe spending more time on negative stuff, leaving angry comments. Then they start feeding you content that validates those feelings, but also introduces political explanation.
Exactly. Then comes ideological pathway deepening. If you engage with that initial political content, the algorithm doubles down, showing you more and more extreme material. Like we said, YouTube is particularly good or bad at this.
And the final stage is community integration. The algorithm starts suggesting private groups, maybe on Discord or Telegram, where radicalized people find others like them, find belonging.
And what makes this particularly dangerous is how it links to that curated digital identity pressure. Young people struggling to keep up this perfect online image become really vulnerable to simple narratives. The far right is brilliant at this. You're not failing, the system is failing you. We see these same algorithmic patterns playing out globally. Brexit, Trump voters, anti-immigration groups, conspiracy theorists. It's remarkably consistent.
Which raises the unavoidable question, what's the money angle here, the actual business model of rage? Can you break down those economics?
Right. It really boils down to advertising. Platforms need our attention, our dwell time, to sell ads. And it turns out outrage is incredibly effective at keeping us glued to the screen. So rage farming isn't just happening, it's a core business strategy. Content creators figure this out fast. Provocative stuff gets way more engagement, better visibility, more money. So there's a direct financial incentive to be inflammatory, often detached from any real belief.
So the data shows angry users spend, 40% more time on platforms? That translates directly to higher ad revenue. And all the emotional data they share is gold for marketers building psychological profiles.
Exactly. Anger literally becomes currency in this digital economy. Facebook got hammered for this. Internal documents even show the engineers knew the algorithm pushed polarizing, low-quality, untrustworthy publishers simply because that stuff got clicks. And creators confirm it, inflammatory content can earn 3 to 5 times more than balanced or educational stuff. It incentivizes extreme performances designed for the algorithm, not the audience. That economic reality is why simple content moderation often falls short. It's not just bad actors, it's the system itself.
Maybe the sneakiest part of all this is how it ties into performance culture. This constant pressure to put on a show online to curate this perfect self. It creates this gap, doesn't it, between who we really are and who we pretend to be online. That cognitive dissonance seems like fertile ground for extremist groups.
Oh, definitely. Research on digital identity psychology shows maintaining these online personas is incredibly stressful, especially for young people. All that energy spent performing success and happiness. It leaves you vulnerable to narratives offering easy answers, easy belonging. Researchers call it identity verification anxiety, trying to seem authentic while also being perfect. And political movements step in offering these prepackaged identities. Join us, share our stuff, and boom, you belong. Less effort than traditional engagement.
And this isn't just happening in one place. It really is a globalization of grievance politics. Our research sees the same patterns everywhere. Brexit, Trump, anti-immigration movements, conspiracy theories, same algorithmic dynamics turning personal frustration into political anger, just with different targets, immigrants, elites, whoever. But the use versus them psychology is constant.
Yeah, comparative studies across the US, UK, Germany, Brazil, India show striking similarities. The algorithms adapt to local issues, sure, but the core strategy, using outrage, confrontation, blaming outgroups, is the same. Platforms amplify content, blaming others for economic woes, offering simple answers, creating belonging through opposition, manufacturing crises. It's unprecedented historically. Movements used to need physical networks. Now, social media creates instant global connections based on shared resentment, and that really strains democracy.
Okay, so what do we do? We've identified the problem in detail. How do we actually find meaningful solutions? What are these digital wellness solutions?
I think the crucial first step is framing it systemically, not just as individual weakness. We need solutions on multiple levels, starting perhaps with the platforms.
Right, okay. So thinking about product design changes on the platforms themselves, what's a big one?
Algorithmic transparency is huge, just letting users know why they're seeing certain content. And interestingly, studies show people often prefer feeds based on what they say they want, not just what keeps them clicking angrily.
So letting users have more control, like telling the app less politics or more education, that's preference-based curation.
Exactly. And research suggests that alone could cut political hostility by around 30%. Beyond that, simple things like temporal controls, letting you dial down political stuff during stressful times, reduce anxiety. Even context warnings on potentially inflammatory content can cut sharing by about 15%.
And I found this one fascinating. Friction implementation. Just adding a 10-second delay before you can share political content. It reduced regretted shares by 25%. A little pause goes a long way.
It really does. Then there's digital literacy. And this isn't about teaching politics. It's more like psychological self-defense against environments designed to manipulate you. Good programs teach algorithm awareness, recognizing when you're being provoked, plus source checking, emotional regulation skills, and connecting people with positive alternatives before extremists find them.
And speaking of connection, community-based interventions seem really key, tackling that underlying isolation and frustration. Our analysis suggests offline activities often work better than purely digital ones. Things like mentorship programs, pairing vulnerable people with positive role models. They can cut susceptibility to recruitment by 40%. Offering skill-building, safe spaces for identity exploration, it tackles the root causes.
And finally, we absolutely need smart policy and regulatory approaches. We have to push for sustainable attention economies, systems that reward quality, not just quantity of engagement. When platforms profit from well-being, not addiction, the incentive for rage farming shrinks. Think about things like transparency on engagement metrics, letting users opt out of algorithmic ranking, diversifying revenue away from purely manipulative ads, strong youth protection, and independent algorithm audits.
So wrapping this up, the implications are huge. This politicization of frustration isn't just changing politics, it's changing how we experience ourselves, fundamentally.
It really poses an existential question, doesn't it? What does it mean to be human when our deepest vulnerabilities are systematically mined for profit? When we're treated as, well, data to be harvested, it challenges our very autonomy.
And the irony is just bitter. Technologies that promise connection and empowerment are now driving disconnection and manipulation.
But, just recognizing this dynamic, understanding how our frustrations are being politicized, that's the essential first step. It's about reclaiming agency in these spaces that, let's face it, weren't built with our best interests at heart. The future of democracy might genuinely hinge on our ability to see when we're being farmed for rage and to choose authentic connection instead, to build real communities that don't need enemies. Maybe the most radical thing we can do now is simply insist our anger, our attention, our dignity. They are not commodities.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive with the Urban Herald team.